Drag Racing fan, a special Between the Slicks here on Leverich Racing, also on Monday Morning Racer. I am the Monday Morning Racer, that mysterious, shaded man of all things, straight down Broadway, as Bob Fry used to say. And we're going to be talking drag racing, NHRA drag racing, with a Leverich Racing spin. Why? Well, we have got on the stream tonight Matt Hanley. He's the car chief on the Leverich Racing Top Fuel Dragster, and the wheelman, Joe Morrison. He is on as well. Matt, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good, Lee. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. Joe, how are you there in your dining room? Oh, no. Joe, we've lost you. We've lost you. And we've lost Matt now. Can anybody hear me?
Yep.
All right, I got Joe again. Matt,
you got me back. All right.
I got you back. We'll move forward with you, Joe. Don't know what happened to Matt there. A little bit of a misstep. Scott says hi, Lee. Hi, Scott. Good to see you. So Joe, let's start this thing out. We want to talk about the latest race for the NHRA. It was a wild one there at the Midwest Nationals. I want to start with this though. Why was Leverich Racing not there? Take me from your side why this wasn't something, scheduled and go to, because, you look at the map and you think, oh, a team from Michigan, St. Louis is closer than somewhere in Texas. So, why did it work out that way?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So we hurt some parts in Gainesville, and we really needed more time to kind of get our equipment back together and ready to go. We didn't want to go to St. Louis with just one engine because, good Lord, heaven forbid you hurt that, then you're already there, you're spending money, and you can't even make race day. So we decided it was smarter for us to gather our parts together and then make a decision as to where we were going to go to next. And Houston is the next race for us. Of course, I was watching live on NHRA.TV, catching all the action there from St. Louis, and what a wild race it was. Unbelievably cool conditions, and cars were flying literally and figuratively.
Literally and figuratively, yes, sir. So for those of you out there watching, look, please put in the comments section, what do you think the wildest moment of the NHRA Midwest Nationals was? Hey, we're going to try to bring Matt in. He might have got his bugs worked out. Matt, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Sorry about that.
All right. No, man, it's cool. It happens. So look, from the car chief side of things, why was Leverich Racing not at the Midwest Nationals, man?
Oh man, so it's a back-to-back, which kills us. We typically roll in. I don't know how much Joe said. I just jumped on. Sorry, but we typically roll in with one complete motor and one short block, and we heard a motor, so we actually are getting a block repaired down there in Tampa right now where the car is. So go into the Midwest Nationals with literally one complete engine is really risky. We can't really chance that. I actually already had prior family commitments, so I told Gary ahead of time, look, if we go, I can't go. I'll support you guys the best I can of getting a crew together. But it's just really hard. It's not impossible for a team like ours to do back-to-back, but it's really tough. And so it just wasn't in the cards for us this time.
Wasn't in the cards this time, but y'all definitely, as mentioned, Houston is coming up. And Chris, look, I've got it together. We got everybody on. We're going to move forward. The show is live, and it's going to keep moving forward. Y'all keep dropping those comments and let us know. Again, what do y'all think is the wildest moment of the NHRA Midwest Nationals? For you there, Joe, wildest moment. Wild day, but which one's the wildest moment?
Kind of hard to pick. I mean, if you look in the pro classes, and Kenny Delco had a wild ride in pro stock, and Alexis had that big explosion in funny car. Listen, as a top fuel guy, and I just raced her in Gainesville, I think Leah's wild ride in top fuel probably gets my vote for the wildest ride. That's something we haven't seen in a while, having a car break like that. I mean, it happened. Trying to remember who the Australian racer it happened to. Obviously happened to Larry Dixon, but but it hadn't happened in a while. And I think as I was looking in different places, I think Daryl Gwynn had posted some interesting ideas as to what may have been the cause of that. But obviously, not been there and having not spoken with anyone on that team, I can't really comment as to what actually happened. But a wild ride indeed.
Definitely. Let's take a look at it right now.
The twist of the screw for the idle adjustment. The signal to the driver. Leah racing for her points light. Tony just racing for fun. Enjoy. Body off of it at the top end of the racetrack. That thing just disintegrated. Tony Schumacher got the win, but that was the craziest thing I've seen. It was like the whole front of the car just disintegrated down there. Leah's car has come to a stop, and she is already opening the capsule. And Leah Pruitt climbs out of what's left of that Don Schumacher race.
Well, there it was from the Monday Morning Racer perspective. Guys, if y'all want to see that again, you can check out the video on YouTube. It's that and a little bit more action also in slow-mo on Monday Morning Racer. That was definitely a wild moment to see that happen. That's actually the first time I've ever seen a top fuel dragster actually wreck out in a national event. I've never seen it before. That was quite interesting. Seen funny cars, seen pro stocks, but the first time top fuel dragster. Matt, look, you wildest moment, is it that one, or do you think it's another one? And as a car chief, you see something like that, do you go like, oh gosh, we might want to check something on the car,
Yeah, it definitely is an eyebrow raising moment. That one was very unusual. Another one that really stuck out to me, though, was just something that doesn't happen very often, let alone to a team like that, would be Tony Schumacher on a burnout. And
wait, I've got it. Let's take a look at
okay.
it.
Tony Schumacher just blew the blower off on the burnout. Tony Schumacher's throttle stuck on the burnout. You could hear that thing high revving down there when he took his foot off the gas. He pulled it over up against the wall, and you saw it and heard it go bang. He is going to coast down, hopefully get clear of the racetrack, or they're going to have to shut Doug Poletta off. They will not run Doug with Tony sitting down there on the racetrack, I don't believe. But if he's got enough momentum to make it to that short gate, Doug will be able to go.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm filming. I'm prepared to do my normal filming of a burnout. So I catch the guy, they come to a stop, and I go get the other guy doing the burnout, and Tony doesn't stop. So definitely, I thought that ranks up there in it being that team. Matt, explain to us what was happening there from your diagnosis.
I mean, I don't know exactly, but man, the throttle just hung open. Something got stuck. So there's a throttle stop on the linkage, and more than likely something hung somewhere, more than likely with the throttle stop. And when that happens, man, those engine revs are going to stay up there, and those engines don't like that for too long. And as you saw, it only takes a couple seconds of it, and bang, that you heard that boom, and that was the supercharger coming disconnected from the manifold, and that crap happens, unfortunately. But that's just very strange, very odd. They'll probably find the problem and go, oh wow, that's such a simple fix, and that probably won't happen again to a team like that. That's very rare.
Right. Well, look, so Scott mentions this. He's like, wildest moment for me was NHRA not letting Pro Mod run. Look, it was strange to see Pro Mod lined up and just leave. They didn't get their round one in, but it was a good choice considering track temperature was low. Yes, it was, and I'm going to show you why the low downforce cars were having such a problem, because the second pair, round one, Kenny Delco.
Today, one of them. Anderson left. Delco right. And then he goes over at the finish line. Sliding through.
Yeah, right there. I mean, the low downforce cars just did not have the traction they needed on the top end. It was a terrible combination of perfection for these cars to be in dangerous conditions. It's strange to think that something going much faster, funny car, top fuel, was safer at that point, but with them having no downforce, they were skating and sliding, and much more video to come in my in review on the event, but several pro stock drivers were pulling the chutes before the quarter mile to straighten their cars out. So it was rough. It was bad. Joe, look, I'm curious, you've been in a lot of different cars. You've been in the top fueler. Has there ever been a track scenario and situation like that for you and for other drivers at a particular event that where y'all were like, wow, this track is not safe to be on right now?
Yeah, so I've had a couple different things over the years. I mean, we've had, especially running the nostalgia cars, we've had events that have gone late into the night when conditions have certainly been tricky at best. I've had a situation where you got a narrow groove, and once you get out of the groove, things are really scary at that point. We've had other situations where it's the day after a whole lot of rain, and we've had water kind of weeping up through the track. And instead of running quarter mile, we've run 1/8 mile instead. And again, the fuel altered, the 134 fuel coupe that I drove, I mean, that car has 0 downforce. Fortunately, I only had one incident with that car at Bakersfield in 2015. But let me tell you that, having driven cars with no downforce versus driving a top fuel car, which has a ton of downforce, it's completely different. And anyone who's driven both a long wheelbase car like a top fuel car and a short wheelbase car like a fuel altered can tell you that going from one to the other, there is nothing in common other than the fact that you got nitro in the tank. And everything else is completely different from there. You don't drive them anywhere near the same. So yeah, fortunately, I've been lucky to drive a lot of different cars, the nostalgia funny cars and the fuel altereds and that stuff. But yeah, there's, we've, anyone that's been racing for any length of time is going to encounter a situation where as a driver or as a team, you have to make a decision. Is it worth it to take the car down the track right now? Or do we want to save the parts for another day on the chance that something could go wrong? Because as you know, in drag racing, when things go wrong, they tend to go very wrong. So, and it's not like, it's not like we're going around in circles in NASCAR and we beat and bang and we've got 6 other cars for the next 6 races. Typically as drag racers, you've got one car, maybe if you're lucky with a big team and you got a backup, but that's about it. So I applaud the sanctioning body. I applaud NHRA for making the decision to pull the plug on Pro Mod and Pro Stock. That was a smart choice. Conditions were bad, and you don't want to see anyone get hurt, and you don't want to see people tear up their equipment. So, if you've raced for any length of time, you're going to come into a situation where you got to decide, should I stay or should I go?
Right. And I have to agree. It was strange to see Pro Stock leave in the middle of round 2, but I later went by Alex Laughlin's pit and I'm like, Alex, man, look, how bad is it out there actually? Alex has been in almost everything. And when I mean everything, like karting at Daytona, tractor pulling to no prep, I mean, he'll get in anything and drive. And he's like, it's the worst that I have ever felt a drag strip. And yeah, he won his round 1, but he pulled the chutes early. So everybody was getting loose on the top end. Definitely challenging conditions there at the Midwest Nationals. So I know we're all fans of drag racing. The day did wrap up in Fuel Funny Car and in Top Fuel Dragster. What do y'all think about the points battle right now in Top Fuel? It's a 2-point lead for Steve Torrance right now over Doug Coletta. That is it. What do y'all think?
Joe, you want to take this one? Because obviously you're a huge Doug Coletta fan.
Yeah, I've known Doug for a number of years now. I've been fortunate to be around the Coletta camp since 2013. I've got a lot of friends over there, including Doug, including Rob Flynn. Of course, look, I'm pulling for Doug. When I lined up against Leah in Gainesville, I wanted to win first for Leverich Racing. I wanted to win second because I wanted to help Doug in the points. And unfortunately, like we said before in a previous interview, we didn't get the job done. But listen, it's Torrance is look, he's a two-time champion for a reason. They're a fantastic team. But so's that Kalita team too, and they've been a great help to us. Listen, they're very. I wouldn't count them out by any means, and this weekend's performance at St. Louis, I think, goes to prove that. I mean, they had just about had a bracket car. I mean, they were making all the right decisions. I think Rob has a great handle on what he's doing and why. Typically. You're going to have to try to outrun those guys because look, Doug is a great leaver. Yeah. He's always been great on the starting line, and I think he's the best driver out there. As far as sheer experience, car control, knowing what to do, instinct. As far as top fuel, man, I think Dougie's it. So, yeah, listen, I'd love to see him win a championship. It's going to be a battle right to the end. It's going to be all about who can make the fewest mistakes. Let's face it, when it comes down to a championship battle, it comes down to, who can make fewer mistakes.
Definitely, who can make fewer mistakes. And look, high pressure situations. We just saw that clip with Tony Schumacher blowing the supercharger with the throttle hanging. Well, the guy in the other lane was Doug, and they shut him off and they refueled the car on the line. The crew's looking like, man, this thing's got nitro in it, and we shut it off, and we need to run it. Well, what are we going to do? And he goes out there and blasts off a 371. I mean, just like, wow. So yeah. I'm definitely thinking this is going to be down to the line. I have to admit, I lean to Coletta myself. I want to see him get it because, I mean, he is a Hall of Fame drag racer. He just needs that championship. That's just all he needs in his career. But, Matt, the Torrance gang isn't all bad because, well, the Torrance gang has helped out the Leverich gang. Am I right?
Absolutely, yeah. And just a side note, a lot of people don't know or may easily forget because, man, the beginning of the season seemed like 3 years ago, but Torrance didn't show up at the very first race. They weren't at the first one in Pomona. So had they shown up and just went one or two rounds, well, the points would be a lot different at 20 points per round. So that gap would be a lot bigger had Torrance shown up. But yeah, the Torrance, I mean, they're a huge help to us. So on occasion, they will have us scrub tires for them. And they had us scrub in a set of tires. And after the run, that was actually the run we went, the 401, 301, which was, with Cam in the car at the U.S. Nationals. And when we, Mike, one of the managers came over there and just said, hey, I need you to go take the tires over to Creasy. And after that, Creasy's going to bring you the tires back, give us our rims, keep the tires. And I was just like, what? He's just, yeah, just go ahead and keep the tires. So that's actually the tires we have on the car right now. Because we actually don't have any tires that we really feel safe running. We have one set that Goodyear said, yeah, you can run them, but be careful. But then the Torrance guys were like, yeah, just keep that. So that was very nice of them to do that. They did not have to do that. So that was really cool. That was a feel good story of that weekend. Absolutely.
Goodyear told you to be careful.
That's right.
Okay. We're going to a fan question on that one. Trevor George, he asked this. Could you have Matt explain what he's doing to the motor at the starting line and why it's important? Trevor, I'm going to do that for you right now. Matt, please explain to us what you're doing on the motor at the starting line and why it's important.
Man, I just make it up every time. I don't have a clue. I'm guessing is all I'm really. No. So in a nutshell, typically Brian Golick is handling starter. So Brian starts the motor. Gary pulls the pump on. The pump goes on what's called the high side. So we're putting a bunch of fuel into it, and I'm having to watch the dash in front of Joe. I'm watching the RPMs. So we have a set RPM that we like to have the car at. Well, I have to very quickly figure out, okay, if the RPM typically is low because the gallons are high, the more nitro you give an engine, the lower the RPMs are. So if I look at the dash and the RPMs are low, but the fuel is high, well, I just wait. Because while Gary will trim the fuel back, then the RPMs will start to gradually come up. So I've got to kind of be patient. But if the RPMs are already high and the gallons are high, well, then I know as Gary starts to trim the fuel down, the RPMs will keep going up and up and up, which we don't want, because on a centrifugal clutch, if the RPMs get too high, that car will start creeping forward on its own. So I've got to be quick. So in all of a third or a fourth of the time it's taking me to explain this, I've got to figure out real quick, do I need to close the barrel valve or open the barrel valve? And that's just for the warm up. That's just for the burnout. And then at the end of the burnout, Joe trims the fuel back, because we do a burnout on the high side, put the pump all the way back on, do a burnout. Joe trims it back some, and then after he backs up from a burnout, I again am looking at, okay, Joe's usually got the pump where I want it, the gallons per minute where we want it. I got to make some final adjustments on the idle, keep the idle where I want it with the barrel valve, and then get ready to send Joe. So it's saying a lot, but you're having to do it quickly, and you're almost having to do it kind of without thinking, because you don't have time. You have to be very quick because you don't want to hold anybody up, and you're burning a gallon of nitro about every 15 seconds. So you can't burn too much fuel just sitting there, taking too long.
Well, Matt, I'm glad that you're able to handle all of that. Thank you for explaining the importance and that moment there at the line, because it is an interesting moment. You've got, someone, their hands up there near the hat, and they're looking, and like, where are you looking, and what are you doing with your hand, and why is there that moment? And, why is there no dry hops today? I mean, that would ruin that part too, and things like that. But even though I think, hey, look, we do the double whack. We need a dry hop. Can we get that in there, guys? I mean,
Clutch wouldn't like it.
No, yeah, right. Clutch.
We will think about it. We'll think about it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Sorry, guys. I tried. You
I'd
get
love
the whack.
to, but yeah, no.
You get the whack. All right. I'm going to bring in this question. This is in general question from Norm of like, what is happening out there? He says, final round of Top Fuel TRD, Toyota Racing Development, black box checked, left lane switched to right. What data is collected in the black box? I believe he's referring to checking the traction of the track itself. And I actually been able to meet this young man, Jorn, I believe is his name, and they have like three guys that one's like checking starting line, one's checking mid-track, one's checking like all the way down. So in essence, it's that tool, that apparatus that goes onto the track and you turn it. So what is that doing? What is the measurement it's giving to whoever is doing that, and how is that used in tune-up?
You want to take this one, Joe, or me?
Either or.
In a nutshell, it's just a lot of teams use it. It's a torque meter. So they just have a torque wrench with a little torque meter on there, and they are figuring out how much grip is on the track. A lot of the old school guys just use their shoe, and they just take their shoe and usually use the same pair of shoes if they can for each track, and they will just twist their foot, and just gives you an idea of how much grip is on the track. For the bigger teams, I think it's a lot more important. For a team like us, it's not that big of a deal, which is why you don't see us out there doing it. But they're just checking the grip on the track, just so they can know exactly how much grip they're dealing with, so they can make any last minute adjustments in the clutch if they need to.
Well, no, and I think what Norm is talking about is, I know what he's talking about. The TRD gang does have something else beyond just the torque meter. Now, Norm, what that does, I'm not sure. And more than likely, TRD is not telling us, just so you know.
Oh, I've seen that guy. He's got that little black box that he just sets down, huh?
And he almost steps on it. It's like he steps on it, or he puts his hand on it. And I don't know what, I imagine it's doing something very similar. But
it's probably just an electronic way. It's probably something coming down and electronically spinning on its own. So it's more of a digital accurate reading, I can assume.
Very good. There we go. Good hypothesis there.
Hey.
That would be my guess too, is that it would be, it is basically doing the same thing as, and if you'd look closely at the manual ones, I think it's called the grip-o-meter.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, and again, that really, the crew chief may want to dive into the clutch flows and adjust the clutch flows as far as when the clutch is coming in and how much clutch is coming in when, based on what they're getting from those readings, like Matt said.
Right. Because I know the TRD guys, they've got like 3-4 guys stationed. They hop over the track and they're looking, back over, and they're on a radio and
they're running. I like how they run to get out there.
Yeah, they're running. Yeah, they're running. It's like, get out on that track. Get that data. Get that data. So very interesting process. And the guy who I love the most, I haven't got to talk to him. I'd love to interview him. He works for John Force Racing. Like he has everything hanging off of him. He has he's like Batman of the track. I mean, he's got his tool belt and he is out there and he's checking. The hardest working dude on track measurement I've ever seen. It's pretty cool. I
believe that's Lanny McGlizzy. I'm pretty sure that's who that is.
Yeah.
A guy like that should have a name like that. He definitely should.
Well,
he definitely should.
his name, they've nicknamed him for years the Track Whisperer.
Perfect. I mean, and it's just amazing. You can tell he takes his job very, very seriously, and he's got all these tools. And I mean, it's fascinating. I think he's one of those great characters of the sport that really doesn't get enough airtime. Personally, I think so. Yeah. Guys, look, still in NHRA drag racing, big news this week. It was announced at the Midwest Nationals, crazy weekend that it was, but Camping World becomes the title sponsor for the series. So, Joe, what do you think about Camping World becoming that series sponsor, and do you think it might even usher in a brand new era for NHRA drag racing?
I sure think so. Marcus Lemonis is a brilliant business guy, that's for sure, at least from what he's built. You can't deny that the guy has done a lot. And, well, listen, I've got a little camper trailer that I bring with me to the races that we drive to. And on the way home from Gainesville, guess where I stopped? I stopped at Camping World because I needed parts and supplies. And so, it's a perfect fit. I think it's a brilliant move on Camping World's part, and of course, I think NHRA was smart for being able to capitalize on the interest. The fact that it came together so quickly just shows you what can happen in this digital age we're living in. I mean, this thing kind of started up on Twitter. There was some behind the scenes stuff going on, and I do know some people that were involved early on in kind of nudging things in this direction. But again, I think it's a great thing for the sport. I think it'll be a great thing for Camping World too, because the NHRA fan base is a loyal and passionate fan base. Just ask me if I'm going to drink Coca-Cola products anymore.
Joe, are you going to drink Coca-Cola products?
Well, if I were you, I'd buy Pepsi stock.
There we go. Buy Pepsi stock. Matt, look, do you think we can get Marcus in the pit for a double whack?
Man, I'm all about it. I mean, I figure as long as Joe is okay with it, I think we need to get him in the car for a double whack, or at least holding the wheelie bar. But I'll let him pick. I don't care.
Marcus is following me on Twitter now. I'll send the invite out.
Nice. Let's make it happen.
Send the invite out. I'll work on him with Monday Morning Racer. We'll get him in that pit for a double whack. We'll do
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We'll give him the nitro baptism for sure.
Absolutely.
Sure. There we go. And then we're like, hey, Camping World needs to be on a car too.
Yeah.
Well, I agree and I disagree. Of course, listen, that would be great, right? But they're the series sponsor. I know that I've seen other teams putting things out there and putting hints out there that, hey, Marcus, sponsor us. Man, don't you think he gets that 1,000 times a day? So no, I think the right thing to do right now is patronize Camping World, thank them for supporting the sport we love by giving them our business. And hey, you know what? If you see Camping World on the side of the car, then great. But I don't know that you're going to see that. I don't know that you'll see that.
Right. And look, I can tell you from my sponsor, Chip Lofton, strutmasters.com, which offers air ride suspension for trucks now. Check them out at strutmasters.com. But I can tell you that, and I also, I see the messages because I'm administrator on the strutmasters.com social media page, and it's fascinating. People will send you a message through Facebook, sponsor my car, and I'm like, That's not the right avenue to do it. You could have done this a little better. There needs to be a better way here, but he gets asked constantly. He does. He definitely does.
Sure.
He definitely does. Hey, Joe, for you, Chris says, hello, Joe. Noah, my son, just loves you. So there's someone out there that loves you, and his name is Noah, Joe.
Chris is a good guy, though. They've been at a couple of events with us. And hey, Chris, and tell Noah I said hello too.
Very cool.
It's funny. It's funny. I actually work with Chris. He's a coworker of mine. So I was the one that drug him and his son to the track a couple of times. And they are huge fans of Joe now. They like Joe more than they do me. So thanks a lot, Joe.
Wow.
Well, familiarity breeds contempt. That's all.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow. There we go. Yes. So Camping World has come in to sponsor the NHRA as the series title sponsor. Definitely, that's great news for the sport moving forward. What do you think the potential is of a nitromethane RV class, gentlemen?
That would be interesting. It'd be tough between rounds servicing the motor, though. That
Yes, it would be. Yes. Someone definitely now needs to come out with. You remember the guy with the wheel standing bus? They need the wheel standing Winnebago.
No,
all right, that's what needs to happen. Camping World all over it. Now to what you said, Joe. Maybe not a car that's Camping World, but there are other brands like Good Sam that could be a possibility, or the Gander side of things could also be a possibility. So it's out there. But yeah, let's get him in the Leverich Racing Top Fueler and double whack. Yes, let's get him in it. Before money is handed over any more than the series title sponsor. So yeah, great days for drag racing ahead. Definitely think that. Well, guys,
if anyone can make a realistic pitch to prove a significant business advantage for actually sponsoring the car with one of those brands, and it can be done, because if you look at the NHRA demographics, hunting and fishing, so many of our fans are also big into outdoor activities. Mm-hmm. So I think you can make a legitimate case for some of those brands to get involved with the car. So I just wanted to throw that in there real quick.
Definitely. It shocks me. And Tammy Powers has spoken about this with Susan Wade in the Competition Plus article, and I had her on Between the Slicks talking about it. But Bass Pro Shops, it would fit to be in NHRA drag racing. I think even things like Academy Sports would fit to be in drag racing. There are segments of consumerism that it frankly shocks me that is not in NHRA drag racing. It's strange. I don't know. I mean, I guess we need more people doing the Kenny Bernstein thing and rolling out the funny car or the top fueler in front of the headquarters and, whacking the throttle. It's what we need to do. So Matt, look, tell Gary we're going to the headquarters or somewhere and whacking the throttle.
Amazon, tell Jeff Bezos, here we come.
Amazon. There we go. Amazon. Well, guys, the other big news this week is that the NHRA 2021 schedule was dropped. And folks, by the way, the NHRA kept their word. There was a PR meeting about 7 to 21 days ago, and they said at that time, 7 to 21 days, we're going to drop the schedule. And guess what? They kept to their guns and they dropped the schedule for the Camping World NHRA Drag Racing Series 2021. So, guys, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring up the schedule, and we're going to talk about it. And there's the schedule with our faces hidden. The schedule probably looks better than all of our faces. But nonetheless, guys, Joe, I'll start with you. What excites you the most about this schedule, and what is the downing element of this schedule for you?
So I was surprised that they actually have as many races on the schedule as they do. That's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing for the sport. There are some folks that think we should be doing less races. I don't agree with that. I think a big full schedule is a great thing. I'm excited that the first race of the season is in Gainesville. I think that's spectacular. There's a couple of things where, for us as a small team, seeing some events back to back, that makes it a little tough. I mean, going from Virginia right to Epping, I know we wanted to do both of those races. Gary and Matt and I haven't even talked about the schedule yet because it just dropped today, right? So we have to have a team meeting about that and kind of talk through things and see what we really want to do for next year. And of course, I'm still working on some sponsor dollars for next year as well. So that's going to have a huge impact on what races we do. But yeah, excited to see, again, the other thing that's kind of tough for us, Reading and Charlotte in the fall are back-to-back too. So that might be a challenge. We got to figure out, what works for the team. I really am hopeful that by the time they get to April that they can actually go to Pomona. The other thing that I wanted to bring up that I'm hearing will be added to the schedule is it'll probably fit right between Epping and Norwalk is Bristol. I was told that they were going to put Bristol back on the schedule, but if you look there, there is no Bristol on the schedule. And yeah, I guess that would be the only one that would bring it back from 22 to 23 events. What else is missing? Matt, is there something else missing? Are you guys seeing something that I'm
Chicago.
not?
Chicago.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
That's right. And that was announced that Chicago is not racing any events next year, right?
Right.
Yeah, that is disappointing news.
Right.
An amazing facility like Chicago to not have any events in 2021.
Right. And from what I understand, what I take when they say any events, oftentimes drag strips and circle tracks, they'll have their premier NASCAR, NHRA national event, but there's a lot of other events throughout the year. And it seems like they're not having anything, that these tracks are going to sit completely dormant is what's going to happen. And that is definitely sad to hear. And it creates a void in the community and in the car culture, motorsports community for that region for sure. And on Bristol, I'm hoping that we don't have the announcement right now and that it's off the list. I'm hoping that they're going to make a special announcement that Bristol is back and it's going to be Top Fuel versus Funny Car for a big money match race. That's what I'm hoping. Yes.
That would be cool.
An all-star like event. Yes, please. Bring it back.
That would be cool.
Matt, look, from your perspective as car chief and, just a fan of drag racing, look, what excites you? What is a bit of a downer on this NHRA schedule that's been proposed?
Yeah, the biggest downer is Bristol. Although that's not the closest track to me. That's the only track in my state. So, but it's just a beautiful track. My second favorite track would be Reading, Pennsylvania, which is on the schedule. So I'm looking forward to that. There are several races that that I know, I'll want to go to, but a couple of them are back to back. The races that we'd like to go to are back to back, which will be really tough. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means there's that much more planning and work that has to go into it ahead of time for us to have the equipment and the tools. And, as Joe mentioned, the funding. I hate to say it, but I have a feeling that the odds of all of these races happening probably isn't very high. It's hard to imagine, but man, 7 months ago we were, about to do the Gators and here we are 7 months later and we're still neck deep into COVID. And man, March is only 5 months away and, Pomona is only 6 months away. And it's like, man, I don't know. I hope that happens. Like Joe, I really want to see that race for those fans out there. But I'm excited about, seeing the schedule. I was excited just to see it and go, wow, their NHRA is serious. They really are, putting the pen to paper here and making this happen. I hope it does. And I hope we get to as many as we can. I hope we also get to do a couple of the match races that Gary likes to do in Canada. Typically there's 2 match races in Canada that Gary likes to take the car to. I hope we get to do both of those because we obviously didn't get to do neither one of those this year due to COVID. So, we're still focused on finishing out 2020 strong in Houston. And then we'll work our butts off in the off season and get ready for 2021 and see what happens.
Only thing else I would like to add on the schedule is my home national event, the Southern Nationals. Drastic schedule change for it. It's typically the first week in May or second week in May. And I can tell you from experience, they have attempted to move it before, and it never has worked out weather-wise, and it goes back to that May date.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it would not shock me that the Southern Nationals will possibly be cold and rainy. It seems like when you move that event, something happens. So that's my 2 cents on Atlanta being moved, but glad to see it back. Frankly, shocked it didn't happen this year, honestly, but we are in 2020. And Matt, I think you have a great point. Even though I think this is a great schedule that the NHRA has put out, an honest schedule, this is what we aspire to. I think that's just it. It's what we aspire to get in, but realize we might still be in this by the time some of these events roll around next year. So, and obviously, folks, whoever is watching, wherever you fall on the political lines of things, the fact is the states that are leaning a little bit more liberal, it's going to be harder to go race. And the states that are leaning a little bit more conservative, it's going to be easier to go race. And depending on the counties, for example, folks, Indianapolis, the county that the big speedway, the oval track sits in, no fans for the Indy 500, yet we were able to have fans for every Indy race with the NHRA. Why? It was one county over. That simple. So let's hope that all of these scheduled events, including Bristol added, happens in 2021. So, guys, you've said it throughout the show. The next race for Leverich Racing is planned to be Houston. So, Joe, as a driver, talk to me about that track, if you've been to it or not, and I'm not sure. So talk to me about Baytown.
I have been to the track before. I have never raced on it before. So I'm looking forward to my first runs down the drag strip in Baytown, Texas. Looking forward to it. I'm kind of excited about it. Actually, I'm going to give a little hint. We're going to have a major associate sponsor join us for the Houston race. I can't really say who it is yet, but we're going to be announcing it this weekend. But I will say it's a Texas company. The owner, man, he's just one bad Texan. And I would go so far as to say it's one of the – I think we're getting one of the best sponsors in Texas for that major associate race. So anyone who's a nostalgia racer has already figured out what I'm talking about. But yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited to go to Houston. I think we've got a good as chance to run well there as we have anywhere. I'm hoping that it's not too hot, not necessarily for me as a driver in the fire suit, but for me as a driver that wants to go fast. I would love to see great conditions there. It is close to sea level, so maybe the air will be generous to us as far as how much oxygen is there, and we can put a load of fuel in there and let her eat.
All right. Well, hey, good news on another name on the car. Definitely good news. Matt, from your perspective, any tuning challenges, any crew challenges, logistics getting this thing set up? Have you been there before?
No, I've never been to the track. I'm excited. Love going to any facility. Logistics, well, we're good. Everybody's, our normal crew is ready to go. I've already taken care of all their how they're going to get there, where we're staying at. As far as running the car, we do think we found a little something, which I know teams always say we think we found something. Gary does think he found a little something in the clutch, and so we're definitely gonna have to tell Joe, we're taking the training wheels off the car now, because we're definitely gonna try to make it happen. We know that Gary and Joe both want to see a run in the threes at over 300, and we're gonna try our best to give them that car. We have a couple ideas that we're gonna turn a couple screws and see what happens, and we're excited to go see what it's gonna do.
All right, excited. I know Joe's excited to get there. I know Matt's excited to get there. Well, folks, we're excited to get on with the rest of our evenings and go to bed here soon, potentially. But we thank you for watching. We thank you for tuning in this Monday Morning Racer Leverich Racing presentation about what's just going on in the world of drag racing as fans and as a team, and keeping you up to date. Look forward to these in the future. Make sure you like Leverich Racing on Facebook, elsewhere as well. And you can check me out, the Monday Morning Racer, on the Monday Morning Racer platform. By the way, I've got a show tomorrow night. I've got Krista Baldwin on Between the Slicks. She is the most recent licensed NHRA Top Fuel pilot. I somehow have been able to have like all the licensed people on my show this year. It's been pretty cool. I don't know how that's worked out, but it has. But she's on the show tomorrow night. Joe, Matt, Leverich Racing, thank y'all for being on.
Thank you for having us.
Glad to be here, man.
All right, folks, thank you. Love, peace, and chicken grease. We're out.